Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Patrick Rucker, finance reporter for the Capital Forum and contributor at ProPublica, on a major, not the only, reason private health insurance is garbage. Also on the program today, Andy Blanco, percussionist with the Distinguished Concerts Orchestra, member of the American Federation of Musicians Union Local 802. They've been on strike for almost 2 months now in New York. Meanwhile, Fox weasels its way out of the Dominion suit to the tune of nearly $790 million. Supreme Court decision on mifepristone. Mifepristone is expected today. And now Dianne Feinstein's absence is going to inhibit subpoenaing Clarence Thomas if the Senate actually does an investigation into his financial just misreportings. Made a mistake. 155,000 public servants strike today in Canada. House Republicans can't even pass their own anti-immigrant legislation, it seems. Iowa next up to loosen child labor laws. Ron DeSantis goes to Washington, then gets largely ignored. Meanwhile, Trump's aggrievement bounce starting to fade. The FDA authorizes a second bivalent booster for 65 and up and immunocompromised folks. Administration makes COVID vaccines continued to be free for uninsured. DOJ charges a Russian national with working with a couple of Americans to sow disinformation. Sort of a disturbing set of charges, particularly for those Americans. Airstrikes hit Khartoum airport as civil war escalates in Sudan. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. Emma Vigeland not here today. I have licensed the right to say the following from her for money. It's Hump Day. And a lot of news, obviously, to get through. We've got a couple of guests. The biggest story, we should say, is that we only have really only a couple more days of selling that effing dork t-shirt at shop.majorityreportradio.com. So you better get on it. Shop.majorityreportradio.com. Obviously, no, the big news is a settlement in the Dominion defamation suit against Fox News. Now, we should tell you that this is not the only major defamation suit that Fox is facing. This one was held in Delaware. There's another one in New York from, what is Votomatic? What did they call? Smartmatic voting machines. They have a similar argument to be made here in terms of defamation. I suppose one could argue, and I don't know, to be honest with you. But that Smartmatic wasn't as mentioned as much as Dominion, although hard to suss that out, and whether that is really relevant. One could say, you can assess the relative value or damages in those two cases. Unclear we're going to get any further with the Smartmatic case than we did with Dominion. Obviously, Fox has to pay a lot of money. They're used to paying out money. They obviously made the calculation. This is the amount of money that we can pay. It's cost of business. They did not have to apologize. They acknowledged that some of what the court found was accurate in that they were inaccurate. There are also other subsidiary cases. The judge appointed a special master to look at the behavior of Fox in the discovery process. Here is Dominion Voting System CEO John Poulos speaking to reporters after the Dominion settled with Fox News.
Fox and Dominion have reached an historic settlement. Fox has admitted to telling lies about Dominion that caused enormous damage to my company, our employees, and the customers that we serve. Nothing can ever make up for that. Throughout this process, we have sought accountability and believe the evidence brought to light through this case underscores the consequences of spreading lies.
So there are, some consequences, obviously not as interesting for those of us who wanted to see folks like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity have to testify, Pirro and Rupert Murdoch and et cetera, et cetera. However, this is the biggest defamation settlement in the history of defamation settlements. There was a bigger defamation award from a court, and that was, of course, against Alex Jones. Last year for his defaming the Newtown parents of kids who were slain. But this is the biggest defamation settlement on record. That's going to hurt them a little bit. The interesting thing here, and here's a comment from attorneys for Abby Grossberg. She was the producer for, I think it was Pirro and Tucker Carlson, who had information and apparently recordings that were not included in the disclosures and discovery, which I think is going to be an issue for the special master. But she was told to lie, essentially, in discovery and during depositions. This is what she had to say through her attorneys. While we congratulate Dominion on a truly precedent-setting settlement, we cannot help but be reminded how Fox News' penchant for paying out notoriously large settlements to resolve lawsuits exposing its unlawful conduct, whether it's troubling allegations of workplace discrimination and sexual harassment and misconduct, to accusations of spreading malicious lies, have unfortunately to date failed to bring about actual meaningful changes to the network's abhorrent culture of lawlessness. Fortunately, our client, Abby Grossberg, remains committed as ever to obtaining vindication of Fox News' violations of not just her rights, but the rights of others whose voices have been silenced, who fear retribution for exposing the truth through her 2 lawsuits against Fox. Our firm will continue to zealously advocate on her behalf to see to it that she succeeds in bringing about a truly real and meaningful institutional changes at Fox News through every vehicle available to us in our legal system. So there's a bunch of lawsuits that are extant. None that may have the potential to bring this type of money, but some that may actually have more potential to force the issue of the case. Dominion's a business, $760 million or whatever, $790 million. That's a lot of cash. I can't honestly say that if we were suing Fox for defamation, that I wouldn't take $790 million instead of going to trial. Although what I might do is I might take like $350 million to get through most of the trial. I'd probably walk away for even, let's say, I don't know, $3 million. That way I can avoid the 90% top marginal tax rate that I want. I'll just take the $3 million. As long as I get to see, I want to cross-examine Tucker. That's what I wanted. Also, one other thing to note, and Angelo Caruso, is that his name at head of Media Matters? Yeah. Check out his Twitter feed. Maybe you can pull this one up. It was from a couple of days ago, but it explains something that, I've known for some time in terms of like the cable news business. Fox News, not only does it have much wider distribution on cable news companies around the country, not just on the coast, but also in the middle of the country. They got there early, and they also relative to, let's say, MSNBC, much broader clearance is what it's called. Because of the fervor of their audience. And because they also attract like people who are not as partisan, but want to watch the freak show. They actually not only have more access to more cable companies, they are, I believe, the number 2 most profitable from getting fees from the cable companies to carry them. So some outfits, they don't get any carriage fees whatsoever. In fact, some outfits even pay a little bit to cable companies to carry them. Fox, after ESPN, is number 2, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of getting carriage fees. And according to Carusone, they are looking for a bump on those fees because they've lost a lot of advertising, but they don't make their money through advertising in the same way. They make their money through the carriage fees because people want their product so badly that people, call up and say, like, I'm not even going to get, it's the same with ESPN. Like, if I can't watch live sports, I don't need cable. If I can't watch Fox News, I don't need cable. More people are likely to say that. Even if more people watch ABC. And so they get higher carriage fees. At the end of this thread that Carusone has, he mentions a nofoxfee.com website where you can go and tell your cable company, I don't want you to pay Fox's fee. Because understand, if the cable company pays a fee to Fox, a carriage fee, they pass that on to you. So it's bad enough that Fox may be playing, in your local, whatever it is, bar, but you're paying for that, whether you want to or not. So worth a visit there. A couple of words from our sponsors today. My favorite sponsor, sunsetlakesebede.com. Oh, grab me those stickers. This is exciting. I mean, I don't even, we're not selling the stickers. We'll give them out. I don't know when we'll give them out because I never see anybody, but these stickers, I love them. They send me these stickers. Right now, sunsetlakesebede.com and the Majority Report, we are teaming up to turn 420, which is, of course, the classic stoner holiday, I don't know why, into a fundraiser for the Last Prisoner Project. Last Prisoner Project is a nonprofit organization dedicated to cannabis criminal justice reform. Things are so messed up. Like right now in New York, right? We have dispensaries opening up. You can grow your own 6 plants. You can, medical, but also recreational usage is now legal. Yet there are states in this country, many states, where kids get taken away if you get caught with like, I don't know, half an ounce of pot, where people are in jails. You still have people in jails, people, all across the country. And so it becomes even more sort of like absurd and just twisted when, I don't know, a third of the states, half the states, perfectly legal to have a plant. And in other states, you can lose your kids. But anyways, that's Last Prisoner Project works on issues like that. But here's how it works. Starting, last week, everything on sunsetlakesebede.com will be 30% off with their special code 420. Orders over $150 will get you a free jar of gummies, and that is your choice which jar of gummies you want. You can get the melatonin ones. You can get the good vibe gummies with a little trace of THC, or the sleep gummies. Well, that's the melatonin ones. You can get the sour ones, which are just CBD. You get to choose, and the whole point is 30% off. You get $150 worth of CBD products. You have had huge savings, and you're bulking up. I use their products every day. Used it last night. Melatonin gummies. Sometimes I mix it up with the tincture. Sometimes I take the melatonin tincture. I don't even know why I operate that way. I think it's usually like if I can remember, I'll take the melatonin gummies. But if I can't, then I'll take the tincture. I don't know. I love all their products, honestly. And they also sent us, and look at these. I don't know what we're going to do with them, but they did the Sunset Lake CBD. I love that. Sunset Lake's biggest sale of the year ends on April 23rd. You got 4 days. Don't miss it. Head over to sunsetlakesebede.com. Take advantage of this deal. Help raise money for cannabis criminal justice reform. Some restrictions do apply. Also, other sponsor today, Henson Shaving. Best razor I've ever owned. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer. They've made parts for the International Space Station. They've made parts for the Mars rover. Now, they're bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. Look, I've had a beard now for a year and a half, I think it is. I only shave here, really, for the most part. A little bit on the neck, but mostly here. I did not want to waste plastic. I did not want to have to pay for a subscription. I wanted a great razor. I found it. Apparently, on top of which, the discomfort that you suffer from razors, not a function of the blade. It is a function of the distance in which the blade protrudes from the shaver. The longer the board, the more wobble, more nicks, more cuts, more scrapes. They use aerospace grade CNC machines. Those are computer something machines. Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches. It is less than the thickness of a human hair. That means secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. It gets better. The razor has built-in channels, which you can see right there. So you no more have to bang it on your sink to get out to evacuate the hairs in the shaving cream. And the beauty about the Henson shaver is that they want to be the best razor, not necessarily the best razor business. There is no subscription. You buy it once, you are done. There is no plastic. There's no proprietary blades. There's no planned obsolescence. It works with standard dual edge blades, give you that old school straight razor shave with the benefits of new technology, that just the precision here. This thing pops off. You put the blade in right in between there, and bingo bango. It costs you about $3 to $5 a year once you buy the razor. $3 to $5 a year to buy the blades for this. However, they are giving my audience a 2-year free supply of blades for free. Just go to hensonshaving.com/majority. That's HENSON shaving.com/majority. Add a razor. Also, put the 100-pack of blades in your cart. Then enter the code majority. You get the blades for free. The link is in the description to the podcast and the YouTube. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. They got some very cool razors too. I have this one, but I also have an all black. I like the all black. It just looks super cool. And it feels cool. So check it out. HensonShaving.com, I think it is. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Patrick Rucker, finance reporter for the Capital Forum and contributor at ProPublica, on a piece that he co-wrote with Maya Miller and David Armstrong, how Cigna saves millions by having its doctors reject claims without even reading them. Be right back. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today. Joining me, Patrick Rucker. He's a finance reporter for the Capital Forum and contributor at ProPublica. Patrick, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Your piece you co-wrote with Maya Miller and David Armstrong, how Cigna saves millions by having its doctors reject claims without reading them, details really the methodology of the way that insurance companies more or less make their money, which is to prevent people from getting health care. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the way they're in the business of selling people a product and not having to fulfill the promise of that product as much as possible. Let's just start with, how did you guys find out that Cigna was using this methodology to perfect the business practice of not providing the product, essentially, that they imply they're going to provide for you?
Yeah, essentially, the insurer makes a promise to the patient, which is, look, you might not like all of our decisions, but we are going to treat your care seriously. We're going to, if your doctor says you need a certain thing, we are only going to question that judgment if we can provide our own doctor who's equally trained and has his own opinion that says it's wrong. And then, in your mind, you can imagine a fair playing field where, like, their doctors and your doctors can sit down in good faith and figure something out. So what was happening was Cigna. And
wait, I just got to stop you here too. We should say that's after the fact, right? I mean, just right, even like
claims.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like that's a very charitable perspective on the way that they present it. But as a customer, nobody's ever said that to me. Like, nobody's ever said, like, our doctor's going to consult with your doctor and we're going to make this assessment. No, I don't know. Like, this is, I don't even know how to buy it. Back in the old days, I didn't know how to buy a stereo. You go into Tweeter, et cetera, and they'll sell you like something with a big woofer, because you're just like, I don't know. I certainly don't know anything about medicine. So the assumption is, like, if the doctor says I need it, the insurance company is going to provide it.
I think that's a fair starting point. And if they were going to challenge it, and you got a letter that you opened and it was signed by a doctor and says, I, Dr. Patrick, say that this is not necessary, you might be thrown for a minute, like, oh gosh, I mean, my doctor said I need it, and this is a doctor and they said I don't need it, so maybe I am confused. But in fact, as we report, these doctors are signing tens and thousands of these denials without even looking at the patient file. They just get a stack placed on their desk. It's already primed with the denial language, and they more or less stamp it with their electronic signature, and they go flying out of Cigna. And United Healthcare has a similar program where they say, under a doctor's signature, denied. And as a reporter who covered the financial crisis, I can tell you it rang very similar to the robo-signing scandal of 10, 12 years ago, which was, the bank's like, well, these guys don't have a right to their house, so we got to get them out one way or the other. And more or less, this paperwork's okay, so let's just find a way to sign this and move on. And in fact, as the scandal broke, these signatures that were taken to be by a qualified person, these notarized legal documents, had not been looked at in any meaningful way. And I think any fair reader would look at what's happening at Cigna, United Healthcare, and ask if this isn't the same thing.
You talk about one doctor, the doctor that I guess the subject of the piece, who has happened coincidentally, or maybe not so much of a coincidence. Maybe that's why this happened. You have a Dr. Van Teradine whose claims got rejected by a Dr. Cheryl Dopke. And you report that Dopke denied 60,000 claims in 1 month, which, rough math. I don't know how many, I'm assuming she's not working on the weekends. She's working like what, 22 days a month, work days. That's 3,000 claims a day that she is denying. And I think he broke it down to 1.2 seconds on each case that they're denying, saying that the treatment provided was unnecessary, and so we're not going to cover it.
You summed it up. I don't know, and Cigna didn't answer how anyone could conceivably look at and make a meaningful, I can't scratch my head in 2 seconds. So I don't know anyone who would expect someone to make a medical decision in less than 2 seconds. And as we report, they don't even look at the file. So the mystery's sort of solved. They're not making a medical decision. They're not opening a file. They're just getting stacks of denials and signing them.
And they're not actually even physically signing them, because I don't even think you could do that 1.2 seconds. They're just like clicking a button, and they're authorizing. Okay. So how did you guys first come to understand that this was happening at Cigna?
Well, suffice to say, there's enough people within the insurance industry, doctors who had other walks of life, maybe other administrators who came into this profession and things just didn't sit well with them. And things frankly gnawed at them that they were doing or that they saw either directly or out of the corner of their eye that were not, didn't seem fair or on the level. And this is one of them.
What are the requirements in this instance, right? I mean, because I know you guys in the piece talk about that you approached regulators, and the regulator said, this doesn't sound right. But like, what statutory requirements does Cigna have, and do they change from state to state? Like, this sounds horrible, but is it illegal or contrary to their requirements under what auspices?
There is health insurance is, without dragging the viewer into too much into the weeds on this, there's different types of health care that are regulated different ways. A big chunk of it is regulated at the state level. So that's 50 state insurance commissioners. You can go online right now and type in wherever you live, like, who's my state insurance commissioner? And it's probably someone you've never heard of. Very few of them are elected. Most of them are appointed by the governor. And those people are responsible for policing the industry. And there is a general, I can't answer for every state, but there is a template for a fraud statute that is floating around, has been floating around for more than a couple of decades, about fair treatment. And fair treatment includes essentially that you've reviewed my case in a meaningful way. What any of those state regulators are going to do about the story and the facts that we presented, we're asking those questions now. But I think if anyone, this makes you uneasy, you need to get in touch with your regulator, because they might have answers that we haven't been able to get.
How many states does Cigna operate in?
It's big. I mean, it's one of the top 10 operators. I don't know. I'm sure they have at least a smudge in every state, but I don't know. It started out as a Connecticut company. It's been merged in many different ways. They administer reviews for other companies. They have specialty review systems. So even Cigna, there's a company called Evercore. some viewers might know about that. They do reviews on like radiology, scans, specialists who do blood work tests. They go under the Cigna umbrella, and yet they're due to a lot of consolidation. They're all over the place. And sorry, just to say, United Healthcare, which is the largest provider, as we were saying in the story, is doing something, essentially conceived this thing even before Cigna. So it's our understanding this practice is pretty widely in place.
Well, that was going to be my question. Is there any reason to believe that all of the insurance companies aren't doing this? I mean, how if Cigna, let's put it this way. If Cigna, one of the biggest companies, is spending 1.2 seconds per application essentially for care and rejecting them in 1.2 seconds, how could any other insurance company even begin to compete with that if they weren't doing something similar?
Just on the basis of a cost-saving tool or a cost avoidance tool, it'd be hard to beat this system. So these guys have a lot of incentives to develop ways to save money. So we need to do more work, but I think you're right. It's hard to imagine that something that is this effective hasn't caught on more widely. And just to say one thing, I mean, one of the guys who conceived it is in the story.
Yeah,
I mean, he
Mooney,
estimates
is that his name? Mooney,
yeah. Who's now advising, he's more or less retired, but he also has some roles advising private equity and other investors about how to get the most out of their insurance investments and their insurance operations. But he estimates billions of dollars saved for the industry through this practice.
Okay, and let's talk about that. When we say billions saved, he tries to make the argument this is keeping the cost of insurance down. But if that was the case, if Cigna was saving so much money from this, their insurance would be markedly less expensive than anybody else's product, right? I mean, in other words, these savings, and it really, it's almost a perversion of the word, because it's like, it's arguably fraudulent on some level. These savings are really just shareholder dividends, right? I mean, this is all almost exclusively going into the profit making of the industry. This is the way they make money. They deny claims.
They never stop trying to find ways to deny claims. That's a fair statement. I don't know anyone who's going to dispute that, because they want to, as you started to say, every penny they don't have to pay out in a premium or in a payout to a patient is money they get to keep. What they do with that money is up to them. Do they want to give it to their shareholders? Maybe they give some to their clients, to their big employers who rely on Cigna to operate their healthcare system. Maybe, but we don't know. We do know that it's up to Cigna to decide what to do with that money they saved.
Right. But I guess my point is there's no obvious evidence that this is in some way suppressing the cost of health insurance. The savings that they're getting here are more than likely ending up as profit, as opposed to like, this is what's really depressing the cost of health insurance, which of course goes up, exponentially every year almost.
Judging by the cost of health insurance, judging by the massive amount of money that's spent on executive compensation, I think that question is hanging out there. Yeah.
Is the DOJ, is this something the DOJ would look at? I mean, I understand it's insurance regulators on a state-by-state basis, but I also would imagine that Cigna participates in ACA exchanges. I would imagine that there are, there's got to be some federal investment in these insurance companies not denying claims. And we should also, we'll get to that in a moment, but has the DOJ, have you guys gotten a comment from the DOJ about this?
This would take, I think in the first place, someone who's got to take some initiative, whether that's Justice Department a U.S. attorney, a attorney general of a state, one of these insurance commissioners. Some are more aggressive about consumer protections than others. We're going to keep reporting this, but I think these are fair questions, and the more that these questions get raised, they're going to have to answer them, but to us or to viewers and listeners or somebody. But no, we're asking if there's anything to be done about this.
You also mentioned that, can you distinguish why this is different than the way that Medicare and Medicaid go about these, making these determinations?
It gets back to this promise that the private insurer makes. And I hear what you're saying. Like, maybe some people are so cynical, not so cynical, they've got reason to think that they don't take this in good faith. But if you just take them in good faith and they say to you, we are going to review your claim in a meaningful way. Medicare and Medicaid, they don't ever make that promise. And not because they're like cold-hearted, just because like, look, we were on a really lean ship. We don't have profits. We don't have all these other complicated financing stuff. We just, apply, appeal is a process you can turn to, but we're very straightforward. You want to appeal, it's straightforward. You get a yes or no answer. It's the private insurers operate by a different system where there's this implied promise that they're going to, if they're going to fight you, if they're going to say no, they're going to have to get someone in a lab coat to say that this doesn't work. It's not just going to be a bureaucrat or some administrator.
And they built in and do projections on how the appeal process is going to go. I mean, to appeal this is like, one of those things where, I subscribe to whatever it is. I buy a subscription on an app, and then I can't figure out how to cancel it, and I just give up, and I just keep paying the $2 a month or whatever it is. They built that into their process. That's part of their business plan too. Will you talk about what you've written about that as well?
Sure. Let's say the vitamin D. Well, there was another example we use of a test. It's a test we use the test for diabetes or other like autoimmune diseases, but it's essentially a test of, does Patrick sweat in a normal way when that's stimulated? Does Patrick have good balance? It's a battery of tests like that. And Cigna decided we don't want to pay for this anymore. And the policy was going to be on Monday, we pay for all of them. Because this is sort of important. These are really only processes that cost a few $100. That Cigna for a very long period of time was like, it just costs too much money to fight these. Just pay the thing. Just pay them all. So on Monday they would pay them all, and on Tuesday they would deny them all. And the difference was only that they would say, we have a medical director has decided this is not necessary. What did that mean? It just meant that someone had rubber stamped this denial paperwork. So getting back to your question, which would be something that they would feel like they could deny, and people might howl about it a little bit, but they'll probably just stomach it. One was this balance and sweat test. It's called an autonomic nervous system test. As we got a presentation, a corporate document that shows how they had it down to the dollar about how much they thought how much it cost, what percentage of people would appeal. It was low single digits. So they're like, based on this spreadsheet, they're like, well, not that many people. So even if we had to reverse ourselves and pay for all those, it's not that much money. They estimate that as well. So yeah, very much. Let's just say that number was 50%. And it's, it's not 5% of people are going to howl about this, but it's half the people we say no to are going to howl about it. You can bet that would change the formula for whether or not they would go ahead and try to deny all these claims.
All right. So just to be clear, what's going on here, again, their business plan is not what will keep the patients the most healthy. Their business plan is what will cut, like, what is the number of denials that we can get to where the denial is at a certain dollar figure, that it's going to impose the cost on the patient, that it is too small amount worth their time to climb the hurdles that we will put in front of them at a certain cost to us, so that we can basically say, like, this wall is impenetrable. And then people will just not want to engage in the appeal process, and they'll just give up. And there's a lot of like assessment and analysis, and certainly more than 1.2 seconds to going into making those calculations as to but it has nothing to do with medicine, nothing to do with the health of the patient, has all to do with like how, what is the amount of resistance we can provide that will make it not worthwhile the customer, the patient, to fight this is basically their calculation. And that's the way they figure out whether they're going to deny or approve a claim, as opposed to having anything to do with your health whatsoever.
We talked to a lot of doctors inside the industry, outside of the industry. We've reviewed hundreds and hundreds of documents. And I can tell you that nowhere do we see anything about the decision. They will talk about the health of the patient, yes, in a kind of an oblique way, but that is not at the heart of what they're talking about. It's either how long is this going to take and how much is this going to cost would be the key metrics you see again and again.
And just as an example you guys gave in the story of a denial was a doctor called for a blood test, suspecting that there was some deficiency, vitamin deficiency that the person you were writing about had. And and they found that he did in fact have a vitamin D deficiency, to the extent that it could have like implicated the integrity of his bones. But they said the calling for that test was unnecessary because there was no evidence prior to the test that he had a deficiency in the vitamin, which of course you could only know through the test. I mean, this is Joseph Heller Catch-22 stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, I was reading that and writing that and thinking, is this going to land the way it does to me? Because that was it was like you said, it was a paradox, Orwellian, I don't know what, but you're right. We do not believe that you qualify to get this test because you have no evidence of having done this test. Yeah, Joseph Heller would be nodding along to that, I think.
Absolutely crazy. It's a great piece of reporting. I hope somebody in the Department of Justice or in some U.S. attorney's office or state regulator's office is reading this, because it is just I mean, frankly, I happen to believe that they can't survive without doing this kind of stuff. And, if we had regulators who were really on the ball about it, these insurance companies, the industry, their business plan doesn't work if they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do. And so these things are, it's really important piece of reporting, and I appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, we got to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Andy Blanco. He is a percussionist with the Distinguished Concerts Orchestra and a member of the American Federation of Musicians Union Local 802. They've been on strike for 2 months now. We'll get the details on that in just a moment. Be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today. Joining me, Andy Blanco. He is a percussionist with the Distinguished Concerts Orchestra and member of the American Federation of Musicians Union Local 802. Andy, welcome to the program. This is exciting because you are literally in a practice space. I can hear you're a percussionist. I can hear the drums in the background. You're not playing them, obviously, during the interview. But what do you play? Do you play the big drums, or like what do you play?
Yeah, as a percussionist, we're required to play anything in the percussion family, and that goes from instruments as small as the triangle to as large as the timpani and the bass drum.
Okay, now what orchestra do you play in, and where does it usually do its work, and in what context?
So, Distinguished Concerts Artists, or sorry, Distinguished Concerts International New York, DCINY, they are a concert promoter and producer that operates in and out of Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center. They're a promoter that sells a professional concert experience to amateur choirs and amateur singers. And so since 2009, they've been selling these experiences to tourists and amateur musicians. And they've been hiring professional musicians to accompany these choirs. And in 2019, the musicians decided that they wanted to have a contract. We had been performing for over 10 years without a contract. And we unionized in a highly successful organizing campaign. And unfortunately, since 2019, we've been trying to negotiate a fair deal with DCINY, and we have yet to reach an agreement.
All right. And so just to be clear, my daughter did her chorus performance at Carnegie Hall this year. She had a performance there. Unfortunately, or I guess it was last year. I mean, I had COVID at the time, so I missed it. But would that have been something like, and then you guys you're the orchestra? Is that what's happening there? Or is that the type of, I mean, theoretically could have been? I don't know if you actually were.
Theoretically, that's exactly what they do. So the company solicits either church choirs or school choirs or community choirs and says, hey, we think that you'd be great to come to Carnegie Hall and perform. You'd love to have this experience, right? They're selling the experience of it's part arts, it's part tourism, it's arts tourism, right? So they come to Carnegie Hall, they sing on stage, they get that experience, but what they're selling is that professional level,
right? Concert, of course.
Right.
Yeah,
and so when they pick a piece that would normally be accompanied by an orchestra, they hire professionals. Members of our orchestra play with the New York Philharmonic. Members of our orchestra, play on Broadway. I mean, we are, top level New York City freelance musicians. And that would be the type of situation where we would generally be accompanying a choir.
So you guys unionized. How hard was the unionization process? Like, how hard did they fight the unionizing that you guys did back in 2019?
Right. So in 2019, we began unionizing in January, talking, musicians, talking to each other, seeing what we wanted to do moving forward. And as soon as we went public with that I believe it was either end of June or beginning of July, they immediately, they wouldn't voluntarily recognize our union. They sent emails and physical mailings to every musician on the list and on the roster, how this was a bad decision, all the just standard anti-union talking points. We're a family. And
I was going to say,
why would you choose the union to come in and take over the situation and all of these things? So anyway, we had our vote at the end of July, and we won with 89% of the vote. So, it was pretty unanimous that the musicians didn't fall for any of those talking points.
Okay, and so they have not obviously been bargaining in good faith. If it's been over 3 years now, that they have not, been able to work out a contract. So you guys went on strike. What was this? 2 months ago now? We're at.
Yeah. So we've had to file 2 unfair labor practice charges. Obviously COVID put a little pause on a lot of things and, performing, but it seemed that they were using that as also an excuse to not negotiate. Like concerts were canceled and we said, hey, even though we're not performing, let's sit down and negotiate so that we can have an agreement when
perfect time to do it.
Perfect time to just get on Zoom or whatever and make a deal. And they kept kicking the can down the road. We don't have any concerts scheduled. There's no way that we can meet. And we finally had to file an unfair labor practice charge at the end of 2021, when they had concerts scheduled in the spring of 2022. And they settled, and we finally got back to bargaining. So, we bargained all of 2022, and I guess it was either November. It was November of 2022, where basically talks just stopped. We would present some proposals, and we weren't getting any movement on the other side. So we submitted to federal mediation, and we thought that would be a way to get some movement and get some progress. And nothing changed. Nothing changed in their position. So it was soon after that the musicians had finally had enough, saying, we're going to go on strike.
And so have you guys been walking the picket lines? What have they hired scabs? What's happened over those 2 months?
Right. So right now, our kind of goal for going on strike, one, was to kind of draw the line and not allow them to have the professional orchestra that they've used and that they've been successful with, and also basically a public service campaign, publicity campaign, letting the choirs know that the professional orchestra that they are expecting to hear and expecting to perform with is not being treated fairly. So we're outside the concerts with leafleting the audience, leafleting the choirs, walking the picket line, and just letting everyone know where we are with things.
And have they gotten scabs to fill in for you guys, or what are they doing? Are they just basically having, playing records?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they've since we've been on strike, they've had some musicians play with them that aren't part of our orchestra, that may or may not live in New York City. They get these choir directors from all around the country, and sometimes the choir directors bring in their own musicians. The organization is on the AFM, the National Musicians Union unfair list. So really, there shouldn't be any excuse for that scabs wouldn't know that they're on the unfair list or that there's a strike going on.
How can folks listening now help you guys out?
What you can do is you can go to the local 802 Musicians Union website. It's at local802afm.org. You can do /DCINY and find out more about where we are and our story. I think there are links there also to a letter writing campaign. You can write a letter to management letting them know that you support the musicians. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and every now and then we have things that people can do to support us. And
what about the venues themselves? I mean, if these things are happening at Carnegie Hall or Lincoln Center, or what about pressuring these venues to not essentially house scab workers who are trying to hurt the professional musicians who really, make these places worthwhile to go? I mean, Carnegie Hall has great sound. Lincoln Center has great sound. But if you don't have great musicians, it doesn't matter.
Right. That is an excellent question that deserves to be discussed. When you have a cultural institution such as Carnegie Hall, you expect a certain level of professionalism there, especially if the company is selling that a professional concert experience. Unfortunately, the way that it works right now is these venues are doing a four-wall rental. They're just renting out the space to the producer, and right now they don't have the responsibility to maintain certain work standards to the whoever's renting it out. that, I think that's something that could and should be discussed, with our union and our elected officials. And, if a cultural institution is receiving, federal funds or, then maybe there should be a certain standard.
I guess, from my perspective, they have a responsibility only to the extent that the people who go to these venues hold them responsible for it. And I would imagine if a lot of people wrote letters to Carnegie Hall and Carnegie Hall started feeling like the people who attend functions there don't like the idea of them essentially, partnering or, having a client or however you want to say what the relationship is, that a Carnegie Hall or a Lincoln Center is, essentially helping with this project of harming the union and harming the musicians. I would think at one point, whether they perceive they have a responsibility or not, they're going to feel some heat in my mind. So maybe, people, it doesn't necessarily have to come from the union, but I'm not part of the union. I think people should write Carnegie Hall, frankly. That's what I would do. In fact, that's what I'm going to do after I'm done here. But we will put a link to the website in our podcast and YouTube description. And good luck, Andy. Really appreciate you coming on and telling us about it.
All right. Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. The dulcet tones of drumming in the background, that was perfect for what we're doing. Just a reminder, it is your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. You can buy merch. We only have a limited amount of time on the effing dork shirts. It is a way. I don't know what happens in the spring. I don't know if it's because I don't know if our numbers are up, more or less in terms of viewership and people maybe more engaged or whatnot. But I don't know what it is in the spring. I run into more people. Maybe it's just more people are out and walking around and not cold. And so they're a little bit lackadaisical as they walk around. They see people. But I run into more Majority Report listeners and viewers this time of year than any other time of year. And if you're walking around with a Majority Report shirt, you are bound to run into another Majority Report listener. This is the way that we find each other. And then, what you should do, you get together and you write Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center and say, it may not be your responsibility who rents out your place, but these people are attacking professional musicians. And if it's not possible for professional musicians to make a living, then at one point, you're just not going to have any value to your venue. Anyways, effing dork shirts. Shop.majorityreportradio.com. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code majority. You get 10% off. Cedar Seeds. We're having our 420 sale. Check that out, cedarseeds.com. Put in the coupon code 420. And then put a free packet of Trainwreck in your checkout, and it'll be free. On top of the other packet, because you want to plant a bunch of seeds, because you don't know, like some aren't, some will take, some won't. The majority certainly will. Then you've got to sex them. We don't know. So check that out as well. So check all that out. ESVN on Monday. What did you guys talk about?
Yeah, that's we had a recap of the first week of the NBA playoffs, as well as the preview for the NHL action that's just started these past few days, and we also talked about Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts' record-setting extension. So you can check that out at youtube.com/ESPN show.
Celts dominated the Hawks last night.
They're playing great.
They are peaking right at the right time.
Exactly, and Bruins as well. It's a good time for Boston sports.
Sure is. Things that happen in the Worcester Red Sox are doing good.
Exactly. all over, Mass.
They just got
Chris
called
Sale
up.
with the 11 strikeouts.
Also, Left Reckoning. Do you know what happened last night on Left Reckoning? Did Matt get out of jury duty?
Yeah, so
jury duty.
It seems as Matt was successful in getting back in time for the last night's live stream. They spoke to a friend of the show, journalist Cole Stangler, based in France, to talk about the continuing protests, why Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron, or President Macron, is targeting workers' retirements, and how successful the resistance to those efforts have been. So you can check that out at youtube.com/leftreckoning and patreon.com/leftreckoning for the postgame.
646-257-3920 is the number. We will be back in a moment. We'll take your phone calls and your IMs. See you there.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun.
Oh, no.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Denner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males,
psych, fuck them.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on, fuck them. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. I will open up the phone lines in just a second. It'll be 646-257-3920. Some IMs. Diego, Sam, what would you say the best way to try and get positive change to happen in deep red states